Hello everyone, my name is Yamna and I chose Pablo Picasso for my presentation. Pablo Picasso was born in Malaga, Spain on October 25, 1881. Picasso's mother was Dona Maria Picasso Lopez. His father was Don Jose Ruiz Blasco, a painter and art teacher. Pablo Picasso was the most dominant and influential artist of the first half of the 20th century, associated most of all with pioneering Cubism alongside George Spark. He also invented collage and made major contributions to symbolism and surrealism. He saw himself above all as a painter, yet his sculpture was greatly influential, and he also explored areas as diverse as printmaking and ceramics. Finally, he was a famously charming personality. His many relationships with women not only filtered into his art but also may have directed its course. In 1897, when he was 16-year-old, Picasso moved to Madrid to attend the Royal Academy of San Fernando. He didn't really like to study, and he didn't really like the restrictions and policies of the academy. He then returned to Barcelona, and then there he was inspired by the anarchists and radicals that he met there. Picasso made his final break from the classical methods in which he had been trained and began his career from experimentation and innovation. These are the first paintings of Pablo Picasso when he was a child. He first painted his oil painting, Picador, in 1881 when he was 8 years old. And then he painted another oil painting at the age of 15. In June 1940, the Germans occupied most of France, while the remainder came under the control of the collaborationist government of Marshal Philippe Pétain, based in Vichy. Picasso initially retreated to a rented apartment in Royal, a small fishing village on the Atlantic coast. Picasso in 1941, when it too was surged over the Hitler's troops, he found himself in a difficult position. As creator of the world-famous Guernica and a fervent Republican, he was unable to return to Spain. So he made the risky decision to live in Paris for the duration of the occupation, despite offers of asylum in the USA and Mexico. During the war, materials for sculpture were severely limited, and Picasso worked with anything at hand, including pieces of wood, bones, wine bottle caps, scraps of paper, cigarette packets, and even a bicycle saddle and handlebars that he used to create a lifelike head of a bull. When canvas was not available, he painted on planks and hardboard, or as can be seen in the head of a woman. November 1941, on newspaper, where the stark black outlines seemed to echo the austerity and bleakness of war-torn Paris. These are the paintings that he had made by using all those stuff in those times. As you can see, the painting on the right of the weeping woman is based on an image of a woman holding her dead child. It is taken from Picasso's anti-war mural, Guernica. Picasso painted both works during the Spanish Civil War from 1936 to 1939. It was in response to the bombing of the Basque town of Guernica. The attack was carried out in April 1937 by Nazi Germany's Air Force in support of Spain's nationalist forces. Hundreds of people were killed. The figure of the weeping woman is based on artist and photographer Dora Maar. Maar photographed Picasso's making of Guernica. Cubism was one of the most influential styles of the 20th century. Cubism was a revolutionary new approach to representing reality invented in around 1907 to 1908 by artists Pablo Picasso and George Braque. Cubism opened almost infinite new possibilities for the treatment of visual reality in art and was the starting point for many later abstract styles including constructivism and neoplasticism. By breaking objects and figures down into distinct areas or planes, the artist aimed to show different viewpoints at the same time and within the same space and so suggest their three-dimensional form. Picasso actively created works of Cubism art for around 10 years. Within this time span, his Cubist style subtly evolved from analytical Cubism to synthetic Cubism. With analytical Cubism, Picasso utilized a muted color palette of monochromatic browns, grays, and blacks and chose to convey relatively unemotional subject matters such as still lives and landscapes. With synthetic Cubism, Picasso incorporated texture, patterning, text, and newspaper scraps into his Cubist work, while he still portrayed relatively neutral subjects such as musical instruments, bottles, glasses, pictures, newspapers, playing cards, and human faces and figures. In the Blue Period, from 1901 to 1903, Picasso initiated his first truly original style, which is known as the Blue Period, restricting his color scheme to blue. Picasso depicted skeletal and sorrowful figures whose body language and clothing bespeak the lowliness of their social status. Rose Period was from 1904 to 1905. In 1904, Picasso's style started the Rose Period, sometimes referred to as the Circus Period. Although Picasso still focused on social outcasts, especially circus performers, his color scheme lightened, featuring warmer reddish hues and thick outlines of the Blue Period disappeared. Picasso used a variety of elements and principles such as shapes and cubes in his Cubism movement. He used specific shades of color such as blue and thick outlines from his Blue Period, warmer and reddish hues in Rose Period. In Classical Period, he used light beige and light brown. With analytical Cubism, Picasso utilized monochromatic browns, grays, and blacks. With synthetic Cubism, Picasso included texture, painting, text, and newspaper scraps into his Cubist work. Pablo Picasso is known for revolutionizing art with his innovative technique and profound understanding of the human form. However, just like every renowned artist that ever lived, his work was severely criticized as schizophrenic and even satanic in the beginning. Several art critics of the era were downright vicious in their reviews of Picasso's artistic talents, labeling his art as degenerate, odd, and a product of diseased nerves. I agree with this assessment because not everyone is perfect at first. Pablo Picasso disagrees with this assessment because he believes he had a talent from the beginning. Cubism, highly influential visual art style of the 20th century that was created principally by the artists Pablo Picasso and George Braque in Paris between 1907 and 1914. The Cubist style emphasized the flat, two-dimensional surface of the picture plane, rejecting the traditional techniques of perspective, decrease, modeling, and chiaroscuro, and refuting time-honored theories that art should imitate nature. Picasso believed in the concept of a relativity. He considered both his observation and his memories when creating a Cubist image. Pablo Picasso was known to use painting, sculpting, printmaking, along with using other methods of artistic expression such as ceramics and stage designing. What I find the most interesting about this artist is that his emotional state reflected his artwork. The Blue Period is a term used to refer to Pablo Picasso's body of work between 1901 and 1904. The paintings of this period are monochromatic in shades of blue and blue-green. The Blue Period, which is characterized by usually more mournful subject matter, was in part brought about by the suicide of Picasso's dear friend, Carlos Casagemas. It is said that his suicide generated the Blue Period of the artist, and in fact Carlos is the main leading role of the Blue Period. Pablo Picasso pioneered the Cubism movement, a revolutionary style of modern art that Picasso formed in response to the rapidly changing modern world. In collaboration with his friend and fellow artist George Sbark, Picasso challenged conventional, realistic forms of art through the establishment of Cubism. He wanted to develop a new way of seeing that reflected the modern age, and Cubism is how he achieved his goal. This citation refers to an article written by James Voorhees. Pablo described the painting in a letter to his friend, the French poet Max Jacob. He said, "I am painting a blind man at the table. He holds a piece of bread in his left hand, and with his right hand reaches for a jug of wine. There is a dog nearby that looks at him. I am quite happy with it, even though it's not finished." From the article Pablo Picasso and the Universe of Art, Pablo Picasso is noticed as the most famous artist of the 20th century. One key feature of his work is that he smoothly crossed techniques, styles, and methods of art.